Hello, everybody. We're reviewing episode 14 for Miraculous season 6. And I know it's a bit late. Got some other stuff to do, but finally we're doing this. Still no English dub. To be honest, I'm waiting for the English dub. This is the reason why I'm just kind of like pumping these out a bit slowly. But yeah. Other than that, this episode is a bit cumbersome because this episode takes place very much earlier in the season, but this is episode 14. This would have worked in like being in the first few episodes up to like between like 1 through 8 might have been good for this episode's release. But no, this is episode 14 and we're almost at the end of the episode, yet this time frame for this episode is just really out of place. But this episode is also really interesting, and there shows a much more gray area, making this world a bit more realistic, which is something Disney often likes to do now. So, well, let's get going, shall we? We start off with basically Zoe in her room, waking up, and of course getting ready for school. She walks down to, apparently she lives in the movie theater. Kind of strange, but I won't argue with architecture in France. After going downstairs, Mr. Bourgeois, of course, is Zoe's stepdad. I would say stepdad. And he was about to open the movie theater, but he has some concerning thoughts. Of course, Zoe wants him to follow his dream, not only to make the movies or of course musicals, but she also wants him to actually share his passion, his collection of movies as well. She doesn't want him to bury his dreams again when he was in that relationship, with Chloe and his wife. I wonder if they're still married. But either way, the only reason why he's actually conflicted is just because of the time. For modern times, with his collection and all, while it's good and he wants to show it to everybody, they're all pretty old movies, and maybe few of them are musicals, but they're all controversial in one way or another, and he's afraid that cancel culture might actually cancel him. Now Zoe actually basically convinced her stepdad to actually go on with it, because in a way these are old movies, and in his collection it's a good learning experience to show people how movies, theatrics were played out back in the day. It makes sense for an educational standpoint, and while that is a good thing, right, it's a very understandable fear for people who wants to show old movies or do old plays without editing for modern times. Sometimes history needs to be saw. And yeah, I do agree with this, but it is a point to turn for. And to be honest, let me tell you, it's very hard for me to try to skim over this because it does reflect at least real world problems now. I don't know why Disney is leaning towards for this show to be like that. I don't mind realism, since this world is a bit more quote unquote closer to real life in a way, not too much fantasy like some other shows I know. But it's a bit much. We'll get to a little bit more later, of course, but it's nothing as something like this. Zoe gets to school, right, and meets up with her friends, but then this one person comes in that there's a new person here at the school, and the new person is this guy. His name is Ray. I think that's the only name I'm going to remember because it's actually a very simple name. Yeah, episode 14 is supposed to be the debut episode of the 3 bullies, and we met these guys in at least episode 3, I presume. So the timeline is fucked. Great. Couchorak, I think that's what the title name is. Now Sabrina is sad because, well, she does want to. She posted up on a platform, right, a picture of herself with her new design. Let's just say that, right? I do love the design, and I feel like a lot of people do. But unfortunately, when she posted that up, Chloe has to make a big deal about it that her former friend looks like this, and that she just looks ugly. Typical Chloe, you know? But luckily, Sabrina actually has friends this time. You know, friends that actually support her. They all take turns taking pictures of with Sabrina and actually say positive messages about describing Sabrina's new look. That's really nice, honestly. Here's some of the screens. Here's some of the shots that she took with her friends. I don't know what's going on with Adrian. Maybe Adrian dropped her phone. Yikes. Speaking of dropped phones, that new guy, Ray, right? He just bumped into Zoe and she dropped her phone. And didn't care about it. He also ate a croissant and he threw away the wrapper. And I don't have a screenshot of that, but Nino was like, you should pick that up. But then Ray's like, the people can pick it up. They're getting paid to do it. It creates jobs. Sure, like a certain political figure. You all know, right? Oh my god. I don't know why I think Disney's taking pot shots here. I don't know. I'll show only screenshots from here to there, but I'm gonna say this, for the most part, through a good chunk, not too long, but at least a good minute or 45 seconds, that we have a semi-montage of these three bullies basically just bullying everybody else in school. Basically, like, you know, not letting the disabled use the elevator. Or you know, bully Sabrina because, you know, Sabrina can't not take a break, you know. And also some messages in boxes. It was that box that you saw from that previous one was basically for Adrian, Marinette's box. And Adrian knows that Marinette never would write that, but he does wonder why somebody would play this sick joke. Zoe was spying, at least on Marinette and Adrian, to see how it goes. She wants to tell them, but, you know, Ray was also hiding near the corner as well. So she does have an idea. As an anonymous letter, she will basically send this to the principal and basically let him basically do a good punishment. It's anonymous, so there is no proof, but once the investigation goes and they found out, it should be okay, right? Well, let me tell you something. So the principal, if you didn't know, apparently is, well, certainly not this guy, Mr. Damocles. Somehow he's back to being principal of the school. I don't know how, and none of the earlier episodes ever mentioned this, so whatever. But yeah, going back to that guy, this is Ray's father, and he saw these lists, and he's like, this is actually a good list. So, father, this pompous rich man, just like he's proud of his son for being so mean. Great. Bro's only happy that his son is like, you're showing true marks of being a leader. What the Zoe's pretty upset that even this anonymous letter, just seeing what actually happened is just really bad. Marinette does actually try to comfort her, and we do get to know a few things that we already know. For one thing, Zoe is from New York, and this person's also from New York. So New York, I'm sorry, mixing up with N and Y. But yeah, we all know that already. But then she knows that that guy's also from New York. That's also that. Also, the three posses might also be from New York too. I mean, the other two members of his posse maybe. But also, we already know that this guy Ray is also Zoe's bully in school in New York, and Ray moved from New York to Paris just to continue to bully Zoe. This guy is out of line, but you got to admit at least commitment. I doubt even Chloe would do something like this. It's just a whole nother step of evil. sometimes like, and Marinette of course just tries to comfort Zoe and promise that they'll get through this together, and basically technically try to punish the people who need to be punished at that point. But in a nicer way, the the good way, the one that people kind of need to, like the one to talk out and stuff, not the other way. But to be honest, scenes like this, kind of scenes with like Marinette and Zoe, still kind of itches my brain. Like, what if Marinette actually did, like, go out with Zoe? Because we already remember that at least in the previous 2 seasons, like Zoe, we all know Zoe is at the bare minimum bi, but it's kind of implied that Zoe is a lesbian. And to be honest, I'm still wondering what happens if these two were actually a couple and how this plays out. Because I feel like this would have been perfect for this moment here, but I think like we'll never get to this moment specifically, possibly. I don't know. It's just a food for thought thing. So yeah, Zoe is with Sabrina. They're basically just talking about the day they have at school until this kid, this Asian bastard, basically pumps up his music and basically did a video with crying baby and just saying like he likes babies. Man, this guy might be the P word, But also, I have to say, this guy, he just looks like Ryan from Ryan's World. I'm hoping that Disney is just using this, like, not doing this, like, specifically just for spiting, but it's like this character has, like, the design of Ryan from Ryan's World, like, in his, like, I guess by the time he looks like right now, I think. And it's very weird, it's very uncanny. The show, and of course how he acts is almost the same from the freaking movie. But I don't know why I don't know if Disney at this point or the writers just want to take pot shots or something, because this is an uncanny one. Not to mention that it's so uncanny. I don't know why. I hate this guy too. This guy is like the worst. We will see later. But to be honest, like the only importance of this character here is to be like the main bad and the reason why everything goes downhill from this episode for Zoe. Like literally, So much negativity going on. Sabrina basically left, and then there's this guy with a wheelchair carrying a disabled person. And of course, the doors close. And yeah, Zoe basically complained to the driver that there's a person who needs, to get on the train, but the driver just doesn't give a shit. Zoe just says, like, is anybody going to, like, stop the driver? But nobody. Everybody felt bad, but they don't want to. And to be honest, this is kind of how unfortunate, like, society is technically. Like, we all feel bad if something's not going on, but there's like a certain status quo that we just cannot basically like break through. A lot of us are guilty, myself included, and this just feels bad. Unfortunately, like, even though Zoe is the only one who's doing the right thing here, it's unfortunate that technically speaking, in terms of the status quo in like society, that yeah, it is how it is, and it's kind of stupid. To be honest, the status quo for this is like there is going to be another train soon, so that guy will get picked up sooner or later. But it is a bit upsetting just to know that there's somebody who actually who might actually need to go somewhere quickly, and then like nobody's trying to stop. Like, of course, everybody has their own things to do. Maybe they need to get home or need to get to work for their night shift since it's the evening or stuff. Or maybe the driver is just trying to do their job and not being late. What does Thomas and Friends teach us for that, huh? But like, it's just upsetting. Like real life. Oh yeah, you remember this director? Yeah, he's just kind of complaining about his actor not doing so well or something like that. And of course, this little old lady is trying to like ask them for directions, but the director's like doesn't give a shit. To be honest, I mean, this is like kind of typical. I feel like Zoe should have known that this would happen, even though it's wrong. but they have a job to do, I guess. It's like another societal status quo. This is an interesting one. I don't have a very good screenshot of what's gonna be happening here, but Zoe, when she got back to the theater, she saw 3 guys just gang up on her stepdad, trying to demand free stuff. These guys are like typical American gangsters for whatever reason. I don't know why. I mean, this is technically the only good screenshot I can get with these 3 guys and stepdad. So yeah, take it for what you will. These guys are not thieves, even though technically they're all wearing black and one has a hoodie, one has a beanie, and the other one is... To be honest, I don't know why Disney is doing something like this. Zoe hides away. She's going to transform because she has enough. But the thing is, with her transformation, something different happened. She has a black suit this time. Spider-Man, everybody in skin. But either way, yeah. If you haven't noticed, and I explain later, just in case for people who are new and watch season 6 for some reason first, basically, the transformation of the suit depends on the emotional state of the user. It's explained by her Kwame Pollen that she was having a dark day, so her suit becomes dark. That actually makes a lot of sense, and to be honest, I forgot that's a thing, but again, Aya changed her suit before, and it was just because she wants to change its color and wants to have a different style. That was about it, nothing about emotions. But this also begs the question about emotional state when Marinette transforms, where her color does not change. I guess she was still stable enough, and that includes Cat Noir too. And Aya. And Nino. Basically everybody else, and to be honest, while this makes sense, maybe it's strong enough? Not totally explained, but it's a neat perspective to put of some things in. After this whole day, she calls Ladybug as Vespera and asks her what she has to do, like what's rules of being a hero, right? Being a miraculous holder. Basically just basically help anybody who's having a bad day, or no, not having a bad day. Well, technically bad day in a way where they get akumatized. But what about normal people? Well, you can help the normal people too. We saw this in the past season, and of course, some of the recent episodes where all the superheroes were helping just normal people for normal things, like rescuing cats and stuff like that. But what about if somebody is getting harassed? Well, we can help them too. We can just, do that. Do that and just turn them into the authorities, all that stuff. But what if they come back again? We just do it again. The status quo of just, doing that. And Vespera is just very confused. Like, wouldn't it be better if we just punish them here and there, instead of letting this happen over and over again? Because it's just an end the cycle. And Marinette does bring up a good point that as heroes, they're supposed to help people. They're not supposed to enforce anything in terms of, normal people stuff. There's not really law enforcement in a way, but as superheroes, they do have a duty to protect people and right the wrong things. But the thing is that in terms of them stopping, they cannot really force anybody to do something out of just like threats or something like that. That comes down to education. Basically, they need to be educated on what's right and what's wrong in a normal way, and not just by other means. In this case, Vespera kind of understands, but there's 2 different ideas, right? While Ladybug basically is explaining that what she meant of educated, as the punishment should be by talking it out and just telling them what's right and wrong, possibly maybe being a little stern with them, and possibly give them an ultimatum that it is not life-threatening, but could actually like threaten at least their normal day of life, in like normal daily life, not they're not threatening their life directly. Hopefully that makes sense. But for Vespera Zoe, what she believes is that punishments, she could just basically teach them their own medicine, which is that you doing this to another person, well, see how you like it. To be honest, there's some people who earn that. But I do technically agree with Marinette's proposal in terms of correcting wrongs and convincing people to do the right thing. Because in the other sense, it's better to, because having the, let's see how you like it type of mentality, there's a highly bigger chance that that person is going to learn the same lesson and maybe doing it much worse, maybe harming not just other people but also themselves in the process if they're going to go much more beyond what they're doing. Higher chance. So technically speaking, it's the Superman versus Batman mentality. So after this, we have another montage. So basically, the director is basically complaining about his haircut. Of course, then later, a mysterious lightning bolt just came in, took him, and put him somewhere else. Same thing with these guys. They basically are, driving away from the police. But unfortunately, a yellow flash of lightning just came in. They basically just took them away from the boat and put them onto a roller coaster. Also, Loic, this ugly guy. Apparently, he's 18, but he's been held back for 4 years, and he's 18 now. This is just a worse version. This is just like the more evil version of Binky Barnes, honestly. From Arthur. Okay? Oh yeah, and remember those 3 guys who are harassing Mr. Bourgeois? Yeah, they're harassing this pizza guy too. They're just threatening him to give them the pizza and his money. And of course, give them the food for free. If you're asking the food for free, you don't need to steal it, but also, like, you're stealing his money, so it's not really free. To be honest, I don't know. But it feels so real. It kind of feels so real as to basically how, like, they're getting punished for this. Unfortunately, these 3 did not get the punishment that they actually have equivalently. They just getting punished from what happened earlier with Mr. Bourgeois. Oh yeah, and this guy. Max was going home, but the guy did not stop at his supposed to stop. His final stop. Max asked why, and the guy said, "My shift's over, I'm going home. You can walk there by yourself." And he actually laughs maniacally. This guy's evil. But then a white lightning just like came in and then took him away. And then he got put inside a panther exhibit with a live panther. Max basically signals Ladybug, and Marinette got the signal, and she's going to actually call Couchorak, and they're going to see what's actually the problem. With Max, and of course some of the other heroes, they, I think, kind of forgot what the sequence of this one is. But yeah, they found the train driver. They just say that there's this weird person dressed in black. A good thing they didn't mistake it for Couchorak, right? But dressed in black, basically, this person came out of nowhere, took them just these random places. And unfortunately, the rest of the heroes noticed this too, and they're now wondering if this quote-unquote new superhero is actually just kidnapping people. But it does seem they all have a pattern, but they're not focusing right now because apparently a giant robot appeared, and this is a mecha, right? A mecha monster. Somebody who got akumatized, basically. They're looking for this person dressed in black, basically. And they want revenge. Unfortunately, while having revenge, this guy is basically tearing up the place, while if they say no or do not comply, he's just going to basically kill them all. Yeah. knowing that this mech is a bit it has a more Asian style, and of course with the voice that you're hearing, you already know that this is the same guy who was on the train. You know, Ryan. I'm just kidding. His name is not Ryan, but I'll call him Ryan because, come on, Disney literally just like made a cartoon version of Ryan from Ryan's World. It's just funny, but also stupid. So Cat Noir goes in to stop the Ferris wheel from rolling downtown. Thankfully, his pole is strong enough. It also is a very strong pole, honestly. And then after a while, the heroes basically try to come up with a plan to get in close and find where the Akuma is. One person noticed, and I think it's it was either Max or Sabrina. I think Sabrina noticed where the Akuma might be, and it's the phone on his chest. Sabrina kind of thought the phone looked familiar, but she relayed this to the rest of the heroes, and now they're starting their plan of attack. Luckily, while Ladybug was captured, but don't worry, she was freed thanks to Captain War, cataclysm a big hole on the ground underneath the mech. With this portal from Max, Sabrina uses her magic ball to retrieve the phone, and they broke it. But unfortunately, no butterfly, so it might be somewhere else. Ladybug noticed that since it's a phone, it's better if they basically look into it. But since it's destroyed, she has to use MiraculousLadybugs to restore everything. This includes any damage that they did and any damage that the villain did. This includes also the phone. So after that, they go onto this mysterious phone and saw this video. Yeah, for some reason, this guy just records himself, so maybe probably what Ryan would do if he was still a, celebrity and all that. I feel like at this point, Disney's just taking pot shots to Ryan. I don't know. But he's cutting diapers for whatever reason. And the reason why he's doing this? There's a new baby in the family. He's just jealous. Yada, 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 yada. He's just jealous. He's He's pitiful. He's just... Listen, he's just throwing a giant tantrums. And the world revolves around me and my tantrums. So this guy just never grew up. And he's jealous that there's a person in the family who the family cares more now. It's a baby. Duh. But also just, it's outperforming him in tantrums. I swear they're also just they might be making fun of Gumball's voice actor. If you don't remember Gumball's voice actor, he actually did throw a tantrum kind of similar to a certain somebody. If you don't remember that little controversy, maybe it's best if you don't want your view of the world Gumball being broken. I'm really sad that actually happened, and of course Cartoon Network still keeps him around, seriously. And he's the voice of Leonardo for the New Turtles. Come on. But yeah, diapers, he's just trying to hide the scissors. His little sister, so this is his little sister, and just basically, for some reason his little sister is so much more mature than this guy. And that's saying something. It just means that something actually went wrong with him. There ain't no way that a full-grown late elementary school kid is this petty with a baby, and yet you have your preschooler sister being more reasonable than you. It's just so stupid. So yeah, they have a plan, and they figure out that this giant robot is literally just a mecha. So there's a person piloting inside. So very easily, they had to call in for another hero, and that is Despera. Luckily, she did turn yellow, but they don't know that she was the one behind all this. Their plan right now is to basically have Despera basically use her ability to freeze the mecha in place, while Cat Noir opens the head. The plan succeeded, and this guy is just afraid out of his mind. It's kind of weird, but this guy is just angry. But luckily, the crisis averted, and Cat Noir used Cataclysm again to basically destroy the control console. Oh yeah, I didn't have. Apparently, I cannot get a good. I didn't have a good. What's it called? Thing. Screenshot. I'm sorry, my mind is a little racing right now. That this guy is just in diapers. Let me see if I can actually get one. Oh yeah, so just a bit more. You see yellow lightning, he got touched, he doesn't know what. He saw who actually it was. Yep, the person in the black suit. Now this is just photo negative because the camera got static because it got frozen. And the phone recorded, continuing to record, seeing him in a crib. Everybody's laughing at him. Basically, how he was acting. This is the first time I agree with the Batman logic here. Now, going back to where we were, Ladybug basically told him about, like, maybe if you were nicer to people, right, you wouldn't be getting traumatized, all that stuff. Being a little nicer to basically the family, because she thought that maybe she got traumatized because of the reaction of a new baby being part of the family, all that stuff. But being the impudent bastard child that he is, he said that it's not his fault, that he was not the one who caused this. It was that guy, it was that person in the black suit that actually did all this. Technically, that was true. It is what pushed him over the edge. But the situation that actually kept calling for this, and while we have context clues, Ladybug is 100% right. And just with the phone by itself, Ladybug basically hit it on the head completely, at least 90% of it. Yes, the black suited figure was the one who tipped him over the edge, but that's not their fault. It was his fault for basically feeling this way the entire time. And of course getting a taste of some medicine, which we know backfired, unfortunately. Chloe basically kind of agrees that what happened to this guy was absolutely deserved. And of course, it does seem like that he needs to go through like maybe a bit more punishment. Ladybug again brings up her ideal that punishing people just by harassing them, like how they harass others. If you harass the person who harasses others, you're no better than that person, which, to be honest, is good. If you're trying to help a person by doing what the person is doing to them, like saying like, somebody kicked an innocent person, then you kick that person who kicked that person. You're no better than that person who actually kicked first, because you're stooping to their level. It's better to have the moral high ground and basically talk things out. Then if things get escalated and you get to more responsible people who can actually help you. That's technically the hidden message that Ladybug's talking. But again, Ladybug's like, if we're harassing other people who they harassed beforehand, then we're no better than them. Zoe does not really exactly want to take it all in, but after further talking through with this discussion for a few more seconds, she kind of understands a bit. Of course, this guy just does not want to learn the lesson. He nonchalantly says, okay, I'll tell them, but it's more so like he's like not really taking it to heart. And that's where Cat Noir came in. Cat Noir kind of like, in a way, just tell him that you have to seize this moment to at least make up for your misdeeds. Otherwise, this whole cycle will just keep going and going. But of course, with how Cat Noir looks at him and how stern he is talking to this guy, the boy literally kind of already knows that what happens if he does not, comply. I like it how the subtitles give Cat Noir the angry face. And to be honest, Cat Noir is literally just doing what his father did to him. And I feel like, if it works, it works. And the Gabriel Gress style definitely works. Unfortunately, I guess, but some kids need something like this. Tough love, as you could say. Now, with Vespero, just like, so everything's good now, right? We can just go on to our normal lives. Unfortunately, everybody saw the black suited figure, and yeah, their job's not really done. They have one more person to look out for, and that person could be either a mysteriously just rogue superhero, or the new Hawkmoth, or maybe both. They don't know, but now they're basically up in arms. And Zoe, unfortunately, keeps this to herself. And that's technically where we ended off with the episode. However, there is one thing, and we do get an actual happy ending to Zoe's little anti-hero arc. It's a very slow one, but Zoe kind of know her lesson anyway. What now? These three are back again, right? And basically kind of tried to bullies the stepdad. But guess what? Mr. Bourgeois hired a new person to run the front. It's Nora. Finally, we get to see Nora again. I gotta say, I do like her design. So it's a little upsetting that, of course, Disney has to tone down at least body structures for some characters. So for most of the females that were initially titled to be strong, yeah, they're kind of thinned down, but you can tell that she's properly well built. She has her boxing gloves up, and she's actually ready to fight. I actually like this. If you guys haven't noticed, Nora is one of my favorite, the favorite side character, at least for me. Not the second, not the true favorite of true side characters, but as a normal quote unquote NPC, I actually do like her. Well, Zoe was happy that, of course, her stepdad got help that he needed. She saw that outside there was a person who was trying to rush a garbage man. Well, Pauline's like, should we wait until nightfall to just give them punishment? Luckily, the police were there. The police is basically telling them to let the guy do his job, and of course, they could just, turn around. But seeing that people are getting the karmic justice that they deserve, even without her influence, is a job well done for her. And she actually accepts that maybe the universe will do its own thing. Overall, I kind of like the episode. Unfortunately, it takes place so late in the season that I feel like this episode would have made much more sense if it took place earlier in the season. Maybe around somewhere between episode possibly 5 or 3 through 7, around that time frame. I feel like this episode would fit in perfectly because it set up a bit more stuff, technically speaking. But while I do get it that in terms of a new plot point at the end of the season makes sense, timeline wise, knowing that we see Ray, the leader of the three bullies, we saw this character multiple times. I don't know why they have to do something like this. Now, in terms of the main story of this episode, I really do like it. It's a Zoe centric episode, and more love to Sabrina. You'll love to see it. And of course, it makes sense that this episode took place directly after Sabrina's episode. That makes a lot of sense. Now, for Zoe herself, it's actually a really interesting twist just to put that there is a gray area. That sometimes there's a lot of people who want to help others, but they feel like just talking to them is not enough. Now, for one way, it's a 50-50 on how you have to interpret that. Well, to be honest, I do technically agree that there is going to be at least some points where people have to learn to take their own medicine, how it feels to actually be at the receiving end of things. And to be honest, My Little Pony did this before. It's one of the more controversial episodes as to why a character has to be stripped down from their original character and had to be a major a-hole. And now for this episode, it actually takes that same idea, but makes it much more better. It's not the best I have seen, but I do like it. And in terms of superhero things, this is a much more kid-friendly version of a Superman versus Batman type of mentality that I actually do appreciate, and I actually feel it's kind of a little fun in a way. I really hate that this Ryan world imposter, right, is like the worst character, and he's supposed to be the most hate, and you were supposed to hate him, which is good. You're supposed to hate this guy. Listen, I wish I can actually show any like clips, because there's this one point where he does a super ghost voice like Danny Phantom, but unfortunately, how he screams is exactly how a baby just wails, a baby whale, like not like a baby whale, but a baby that's fucking screaming. He's just a big baby for sure. Now, I don't know how I feel about Disney going through a bit more of a realistic style in terms of storytelling, because the thing about society being like this is a thing that I feel like a lot of shows should be doing. But season 6, for the most part, is a lot of meta commentary about society and all that stuff. Not to mention that in the very beginning, about like Mr. Bourgeois's movie collection being controversial because of the times it was in. And it's ironic because Disney is afraid to show their collection. Yet here it's like you're not supposed to be afraid to show your collection. It's kind of weird, huh? Overall, I give this episode at least an 8 out of 10. But considering where it falls into the timeline and how unrelated it is during this time, because this is episode 14, and this feels like an episode that should have took place at least like in episode 6 range. Yeah, overall I would say this is above average. I think much more fairly, including the timeline placement, this is a 7 out of 10. It ranges about 6 to 8, because on a bad day this might be a 6, just because Zoe does have a point, and in a superhero centric show it kind of makes sense. But this also kind of takes to play at least Saturday morning cartoon slot, because Zoe's thinking does match up with at least Saturday morning cartoons. But since we got season 6 run by Disney, which in this day and age in society culture, Saturday morning cartoons are not really a thing anymore, so we have to be a bit more realistic and stuff. Maybe there's a lot of meta stuff coming in from this episode, huh? Either way, sorry for rambling. Again, this is a range of a 6 out of 8 episodes, 6 to 8 out of 10 episode. For me, I'll say it's 7 out of 10, but what about you? What do you think how this episode ranks? Because to be honest, it doesn't fit this late into the season. That's all I'm gonna say. I do like this concepts, but Jesus Christ, it becomes a bit too meta once you actually keep thinking about it in terms of society. Definitely society. Maybe that Batman analogy wasn't too far off. Well, we only have one more episode to review by the time this recording. So unless there's going to be new episodes, I'll see you guys in episode 16.